So it is 6 o'clock. I am always interested in making sure that everyone gets started at the right time. Well, our intent tonight, is the fact that everyone that is running in a primary on September 10th will have an opportunity to introduce himself or herself to the organization. One of the things that we have heard about new Democrats is we like to meet the people we're going to vote for. And while this isn't quite meeting at the behavioral fair, it is still meeting, and it is just a wonderful opportunity to meet people. We're going to start off with the sheriff. I have a tendency to start meetings on time because you all hurried to get there and wanted to be on at 6 o'clock. So I'm going to start with Eric James. Eric?
Fantastic. Am I there? Frederick
You
James
are,
or
you are there,
wife?
Eric. And I suspect that people will want to turn it on to speaker mode so that they can follow the kind of thing that you're talking about and where you are.
Okay.
So Eric, it's all yours, and you've got 5 minutes, and I'm timing the timing.
Is it a dead stop, or what are we doing here? Just so I know the rules.
Well, you go 5 minutes and then finish your sentence.
Okay. So do I show up as my wife, Deb James? Because all of a sudden I had to convert. I had some technical difficulties. Am I there as Deb James, Eric James, Frederick James, or something different?
Eric James.
Perfect. I tried to change. Well done. Okay. So yeah. So I'm Eric James. My legal name is Frederick James, but I do go by Eric. The ballot is going to say Eric James, so that's what I'm asking people to remember. I'm from Thornton, New Hampshire. I've resided here for nearly 40 years. It's where I've raised my family. I'm a graduate of the Holderness Prep School. After graduating from Holderness, I got a degree in business administration with a minor in finance from Roger Williams University. After college, I returned back to the region where I got my first law enforcement job. I was hired as a police officer, a firefighter, and an EMT with the Waterville Valley Department of Public Safety. I served 6+ years in Waterville Valley before deciding to switch over and focus just on law enforcement, taking a position that opened up at the Grafton County Sheriff's Department when I was hired as a deputy. Over the last 22 years working for the Sheriff's Department, I've worked for 3 different sheriffs. I've worked my way through the ranks from deputy to detective, detectives to sergeant, sergeant to lieutenant, and then ultimately to captain. Now, what I found, one thing on the campaign trail, meeting people, that a lot of people have no idea what the Sheriff's Department does. And so I'm going to very briefly skim over the responsibilities of the Sheriff's Department, that we do have statewide law enforcement jurisdiction. We're not governed by population, but we do have a constitutional responsibility or responsibilities that we are to serve civil process. We move various detained persons to and from court and housing facilities such as jails and prisons. And then we're also responsible for the safety and security of the Superior Court. But that's a minimum. And I believe that our staff has to do more than the minimum. And that's what I would ask of them. But while at the Sheriff's Department, I've been very, very lucky. I've been in investigations most of my career. I've been commander of the Criminal Investigations Division. We've taken on complex investigations involving public officials, elected officials, police officers, firefighters. We've taken on other conflict cases. Some of these conflict cases, either agencies were either unable or unwilling to investigate these cases. And in the meantime, we've developed a unit that has a skill set and specializes in crimes against children. I've been a liaison with the Grafton County Attorney's Office, the Child Advocacy Center, and I've been a regional contact and affiliate with New Hampshire Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force. With my partners, we developed a one-of-a-kind computer forensic unit after roughly 10 years ago. At the time, County Attorney Laura Saffo, Assistant County Attorney Paul Fitzgerald, and I recognized that there was a deficiency in the state, that we knew that every crime had a digital component, but yet when you dropped a device off down at the state lab, the turnaround time was 1 to 2 years. So we decided, why can't we do this here? Why can't we help our victims here in Grafton County get a better product so that the county attorney's office can actually prosecute a case in a timely fashion? So that's where the idea for the CFU, the Computer Forensic Unit, was born. And it was based upon the dedication and devotion of the investigators to go off to a class, sometimes a week, a month, or greater, to then get these tools and licenses to come back to the agency without burdening the taxpayer hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we've done this in a very creative way through one grant at a time, one training at a time, one tool at a time. So at the end of July 2023, I was very fortunate. I ended my full-time career with the Sheriff's Department. I took a month off, a separation from the agency, and then I came back, very fortunate to have one of the part-time positions with the New Hampshire Internet Crimes Unit, where the bulk of my responsibilities are geared toward child exploitations, investigations, and saving children. But that's a little bit about me. That's a little bit about my past. So what are we going to do when I'm elected sheriff? I've talked a little bit about regionalization of resources, and I know I have to fly through some of my ideas here because we're tight on time with 5 minutes. But so to start with, we're going to fill vacant positions. We're going to solidify a union contract for our employees. We're going to expand our computer forensic unit so that it's a regional computer forensic unit. I know this is going to take place because I've already applied for a grant for $90,000 to do this, and it's already been granted. Those funds are earmarked for us. We're going to swear in additional part-time investigators to assist us so that there's a succession plan so that when I and other investigators step aside, these child exploitation investigations can continue with investigators that have the knowledge and experience. We're going to implement our drone program that's in its infancy right now. We're actually going to launch it. Yes, the pun is intended. 1 minute? We're almost
1 minute.
time. So
Go ahead.
real quick, why am I running for sheriff? I'm running for sheriff for one reason. I'm seeking the support of everyone in this county for one reason. It's never been a goal of mine. I've never needed a title to justify my success in this profession. It's because the dedicated staff at the Grafton County Sheriff's Department, the people whom I work with for the last 22 years, they have said that not only do we want you to run, we need you to run. If they were backing another candidate, I would step aside. I would not be asking for the support tonight. So please get out, support me, support the Grafton County Sheriff's Department, the staff there, and get out and vote on September 10th. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
Yes. Jill, would you like to follow up on that? I saw your one. Yeah, there you are.
Yeah,
Saw
can
you at
everyone,
one point.
can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, so you all know I'm Jill Myers. I'll give you guys a little bit of background about who I am, my experience, and why I'm running for sheriff. So I am a mother of three. I've got two 5-year-olds currently, a 2-year-old, and my husband. We all live together in Lisbon. I was born and raised in Grafton County, and I've been here my entire life. I went to Plymouth State, where I received a criminal justice degree with a minor in sociology. And during my time there, I did a internship with juvenile probation parole. And during that internship, my eyes were wide open. And I realized that for the North Country, we don't have nearly the resources that we need, especially for juveniles, even more so for folks in domestic violence situations, mental health crises. Right now, the overall drug epidemic that's happening. So that was a big eye opener. And that kind of turned me into law enforcement because, hey, what better way to help people than to start a career in law enforcement where I get to do that every single day. So I started with the Littleton Police Department as a patrol officer. I made detective within 3 years. Again, I did numerous trainings, completed certifications, and specializing in help with victims of domestic and sexual abuse, mental health issues or illnesses, and the war on drugs. And great opportunities in Littleton. We actually have someone who's dedicated their past 500. She did a certification program where she had to do 500 hours of training to help the department with the ongoing drug epidemic. And she's actually an employee of Littleton. So just great programs that we're starting up in the North Country. There's definitely not enough for everything that's happening, but that's a work in progress. So that was some of my time in Littleton. I worked with the Grafton County Sheriff's Department for almost 2 years, and which time I was promoted to a sergeant while there. I trained numerous incoming employees and new officers there during my time. Went back to Littleton, where I'm still a special investigator with them. So there's some of my experience, and why I'm running is because now is the best time to step up and make great connections with the citizens of Grafton County, better partnerships with local, state, and federal agencies. There really needs to be an emphasis on the fugitive apprehension bit of it, and the fact that the current warrant list is probably somewhere over 400 warrants. And what is that doing for the victims of those cases? They're not seeing any justice, and that there really needs to be a push to work on fugitive apprehension and kind of start to narrow down that warrant list. Another big thing for me would be regionalizing things such as trainings, because in Grafton County, there's so many departments that are 1 to 2 man departments, or there's even towns that have no department. And as of right now, state police is currently, like, I believe 40 to 50 guys short. So the towns that they're covering, we're lacking. And really the sheriff's department is the asset that should be stepping up and helping as much as possible. So I believe that regionalizing some things like that and trainings would really just get everyone on the same page. It's a great network of agencies and people, and that really just needs to be something that is a priority and needs to happen. Why I'm running for sheriff is because it's always been a goal of mine, and I'm not going to wait an entire career to try to step up and make change. That's why I'm doing it now. We've got a little over 8 years of law enforcement experience, 4 years of schooling, and now's the time to step up. That place needs change, and I believe that I can be that change and bring people together and do more community outreach, introduce new programs, like focusing on educating youth on the dangers of alcohol and drugs, which is a huge thing right now. Things such as like pill mills, where these pills that are laced with things like fentanyl are getting introduced into schools, mainly colleges. But that's a big issue, and we really need to step up and start creating programs to help youth really see what the dangers are and just give them different avenues to keep them away from things like that. And then just really just focusing on regionalizing and getting everyone on the same page, and just becoming a county that's solid and a safer place. And, you know, a lot of people, like Eric James said, don't know what it is that the sheriff's department does. Well, it will be one of my goals to make it known what we do and what we can do for everyone.
Thank you, Jill. Nice summary, and you're brave to have all those little ones at home running around at the same time.
Well, I had my husband take them out for the night, so they wouldn't be screaming in the background.
Thank you. Michael, you're up.
Yes, here I am. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Tamulonis. I'm running for Grafton County Sheriff. We'll go around in my background. After high school, I joined the U.S. military. I was a member of the United States Air Force for about 5 years. Did tours in Europe and stateside. I then joined the New Hampshire Air National Guard. I was with them for 3 years, and then started my law enforcement career in the city of Dover. I've been in law enforcement for over 35 years. During that time, I worked a lot with children. I've been a school resource officer. I've been a drug resistance education officer. So one of the things I talk about is I have a lot of, it's not my qualifications and experience that I think that makes me the best candidate. However, I got plenty of those. I got enough, certificates along with anybody with a career as long as I have to plaster a wall with them. But I believe that it's the person I am and the law enforcement officer that I have been that makes me the best fit for the job. I feel that that I treat people the way I treat people the way that I would want to be treated in their situation. I recognize the fact that these people that are having probably their worst day ever, that they are still somebody's mother and father, brother, sister, son, and daughter. And I will ensure that people that work with me will treat them the same way. And I will do this job to the best of my ability. Now, some of the things that I vision in the future, I would love to see the sheriff's office become a hub for the county of law enforcement. I'd like to see it be the center of training, information, logistics, ideas. I'd love to be a think tank for the county. Mental health resources for all the officers within the county. I'd like to see that. I'd also, some people have already talked, I think both people have talked about a fugitive, I'd like to see a fugitive warrant team established to take care of the warrants that we do. I agree with Jill that the amount of warrants that have the numbers that we're up to. Matter of fact, Jill, I think we're up to over 500 now. Is not acceptable, not appropriate. But due to bail reform, COVID, the ongoing drug crisis, these numbers have just, reached levels. Bail reform, a new bail reform law has come out. We'll see if that helps a little bit, but I don't foresee that having much effect. Another program I'd like to see is one I had years ago was Fraud Fighters, which works with the county's senior citizens. It helps them, it gives them the tools and education not to be scammed by some of these scam artists that are out there. I think the last figure I saw was in the billions of senior citizens getting scammed of their life savings and what they have left to survive. But I was going around the county meeting with senior citizens and teaching them how not to get scammed. Now, why I'm running is I've had a long career. I retired back in 2021. Last 3 years, I've been working part-time for the sheriff's department, but I've been working for my wife mostly, working in a daycare, taking care of little kids, which I absolutely love. Absolutely love it. But Joe's right that, the time is right. The iron is hot. I have ideas that in the past I haven't been able to get through. A lot of ideas I did get through and they've been very successful, but there's some that I didn't. And I'd like to try those out and continue my work. I'm just not done yet. I'm older, but I think I'm wiser, kinder. But again, my don't mistake my kindness for weakness. It's definitely not that. But I would hope that everybody at least give me a look. That's all I can ask. And if you like what you see, give me your vote come September 10th. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Does anybody have any questions for our 3 Senate candidates? And I can't see every screen, so don't hesitate to unmute yourself and ask. Unless I'm missing someone. Then let's talk about the county treasurer. Everybody likes to talk about money. And Mike Cryans, you're up first to talk about money.
Hi, my name is Mike Cryans, and as Sue just said, I am running for treasurer of the county. Previous to that, I served 19 years as a county commissioner and 2 years on the executive council. And I was thinking back of when Ray Burton passed away. I got a phone call from James Prindle inviting me down to WMUR to be on one of the talk programs. And he said, when he was interviewing me, he said, some people say Ray Burton loved county government more than he loved being on the executive council. And I said, I don't know if he loved it anymore, but he didn't love it any less. And I can tell you, after serving on both, they are wonderful life experiences. I listen to many people say, what a county government does, what does it do on a daily basis for us? And all you have to do is go up there to the nursing home and to the jail, and you'll see it firsthand. In addition to my elected office, I think a job that'll help me do well is that, well, before that, I was a teacher and coach. And I think if you watch the Democratic convention, you'll see it's not bad being a teacher and a coach anymore. I think there's a certain vice president that got nominated who's a teacher and coach, but I was also a banker. And I hope my banking experience will bode well for my opportunity to serve as treasurer. Thought it was interesting when I look at my two jobs as a county commissioner and then hopefully as county treasurer. When I was a county commissioner, we were in a building period. We built the jail, we built the 60-bed addition to the nursing home, we built the water tower to protect the property if it ever was to have a fire again. And we did things like that. And we built the plant for the biomass. And all the time during those buildings, you're looking at getting the bonds as cheap as you can. So we go from the borrowing side. Now I'm going to look at the depository side and try to get the best interest rates possible, because many of you probably know, but all of a sudden the tax money all comes in December. And the goal is to get that money deposited. So one, you have the money immediately available for any expenses that you have. And then those monies that are left over, you parcel them out over a period of time to help you get an interest rate, but also to be available when needed. And with the goal of hopefully not having to borrow because you've timed it well and you have enough tax money. So I thought it was an interesting dichotomy that you look at one side and you're hoping to get the best rates. And I'm glad we did, because borrowing is what we borrow is a lot more expensive than what we save, because we only have the money for a short period of time. But so just to give people an idea, because somebody said, where does the money go? Typically, a big chunk of the money will go right into the checking account. And it's certainly not bidded out because you need it available. So Woodsville Guaranteed Savings Bank has been doing that all the time that I was on the commission, and I'm sure today. And then you parcel it out with a competitive bid throughout the county to get the banks that are involved in the county to make a bid, so they will take a portion of the money. A lot of times they do what is called a CDARS. It's a CD, but they parcel it out so the entity is secured with the $250,000 FDIC benefit. So it's that kind of manipulation of the money and making good use of it. So I will do my best to each and every day to make sure that we get the best rates we possibly can. In addition to that, I think something that helped me when I was, just before I went into the county commissioner, I guess around the same time, Governor Shaheen put me on the College Tuition Savings Board, and I was the governor's public member. And either through some luck or people forgot me, I served through the time of not only Governor Shaheen, but Governor Benson, Governor Lynch, Governor Hassan, and even Chris Sununu. But I had to step down when I went on the executive council. And the reason I say that is it gave me an opportunity to view things sort of at a bigger level. Today, I think the unique college savings plan has about $25 billion in deposits. And of that money, a certain percentage comes back to the state that goes into scholarships. In addition to my time on that board, I also served on the hospital board down here at Ellis Peck Day in Lebanon, and I was on the New England Drug Court board. And it's interesting when I listen to the members running for sheriff, it is the scourge of our lifetime right now is what is happening, especially with fentanyl. There's not one community that is not touched. And, you know, I guess what I would say that I hope if I'm elected, that not only will people look to me for my experience as the treasurer, but also if there's any members of the delegation or the executive committee or the senior members of staff or public members that have questions about certain issues. I don't want to meddle, but I think a lifetime of experience gives you the opportunity to help, because our jail is filled with people that are dealing with substance misuse. So
Thank you, Mike.
that's my concern. Well, thank you,
Thank
Susan.
you. And Tim, I know you have questions. We'll handle those at the end. Corinne is also running for the treasurer. There you are.
Hi, thank you so much for everyone being here tonight. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about me. About 10 years ago, I was going to school to be a teacher. Decided that it was a good time to take a short break before completing my degree to start a family with my husband. We were living in Washington State. Figured we'd have a baby. I'd stay home for the first year and then get back to it. Turns out my son is autistic, ADHD, and I've been a stay-at-home mom for the last decade. Our daughter Nora joined the family about 8 years ago, and so we really kind of changed our whole life plans and everything about what we were doing so that we could accommodate special needs kids, which gave me an opportunity to get a lot of firsthand experience that I think is often overlooked as a stay-at-home mom about balancing budgets and looking at how we can get better interest rates. And, you know, taking care of a family of 4 on a single income has been certainly challenging, but it's something that I'm really proud to say that I've managed to do pretty well over the last decade. In 2018, we decided to move from Washington State to New Hampshire. It was sort of just what could possibly go wrong. We'll see what happens. So we landed in Canaan and absolutely fell in love with it. We've been super happy here. Unfortunately, just as we were sort of starting to recognize where we were, meet some people in the community, COVID hit, and we were pretty much isolated for the next 2 years. Coming out of COVID, I wanted to get really involved with the community, so I joined the local planning board, started meeting a lot of great people, getting more involved. In 2022, I ran for state representative for Grafton 9, which is Canaan, Dorchester, and Orange. I won that seat and I have been serving as state representative for the past 2 years. In addition to that, I've been on the Grafton County Executive Committee for the delegation. And so that seat is where we go sit with the commissioners and the treasurer and the administrators and all of the department heads, and we kind of go through what the budget needs to look like, how we can, you know, try to get better interest rates, how we can use the ARPA funds that we had coming in, and doing all of those things. So the last 2 years have really been an eye-opening experience for me as far as figuring out where I fit into my community, what I enjoy, and what I want to do long term. I was elected to the Canaan Democrats treasurer position, and also the Mascoma School District Budget Committee. So I've been getting some experience there dealing with pretty large budgets. And one of the things that I think is really important that we're going to be looking at is how much our budget is going to be changing and how many funds we'll have moving forward after we delegate the rest of the ARPA funds. That's something that I've been paying really close attention to moving forward, and recognizing that interest that we've been able to gain the last couple of years there is about to run out. So we're going to have to get a little bit creative moving forward, looking at how we can, you know, increase revenue, get better interest rates, look at different bonds, look at different investment opportunities there. And I've had a really great opportunity the last 2 years working very closely with the treasurer and the commissioners and the administrators to know, you know, what that relationship looks like, who we're using, how we can, you know, get creative with all of those things. So basically, the reason I'm running for this position is, one, I realized that state politics are unbelievably important, but what I really enjoyed were the county jobs that we were looking at, and doing all those things and getting in there and actually doing the work and accomplishing those things. And it's a job that I can see myself in for a long time. I'm not really interested in seeking, higher office and trying to move out of it. It's something that I'd really like to dedicate some time to long term. And I love that it gives my kids an opportunity to see me continue to stay involved, and really get some work done that really affects our constituents and our Grafton County residents. So that's why I'm here. So thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Yes, and when we know were an active legislator for the last 2 years, I suspect they will miss you.
Thank you.
Jason? We went back and forth. I saw you were here, but I don't see your
I'm
picture.
here.
Oh, there
I'm
you
here. So, hi, my name is Jason Neenos. I'm here located in Plymouth, New Hampshire, and I'm glad I was able to meet with so many of you guys, and thanks to the beauty of digital communications. So, like Corinne, I moved to New Hampshire relatively recently, unlike Mike, who's been here forever. My family and I moved to New Hampshire in 2019, right before COVID hit, and we got here in August and got that fun lockdown of 2 years, and then trying to figure out what New Hampshire is like for us. So, but I moved here to work at Plymouth State University. I don't work there full time anymore, but I work there as an adjunct instructor, teaching a history class called The Deep Roots of Black Lives Matter. And it's a class I really enjoy teaching and working with my students. And really interesting, like Corinne went to study education and Mike was a former teacher. I'm also a former K-12 teacher. So all our treasurer candidates used to be in the K-12 realm or K-12 adjacent. So, but I taught social studies for 5 years at various locations around the country. And one of the things I always, tell my students, in the past and tell my students now is, you want to make change, you got to get involved. And so now that we're coming out of COVID and things are getting back to relative normal, I'm trying to put my money where my mouth is as I preach to my students. And so I've served on the Plymouth Energy Commission for a little while now. As of 2 days ago, I'm now on an alternate on the Plymouth Planning Board. And so looking forward to serving in that and, do that along with being a Cub Master and my kids' Cub Scouts and running, coaching a flag football for them. So the experience I can at least bring to a position of county commissioner is dealing with RFP proposals. I'm used to negotiating with vendors and things like that on services and items in my job as a technologist for higher education. So I'm used to negotiating contracts and looking at the bottom lines for getting the best value for a dollar. And that's one of the things I want to bring to, if I can serve as the county treasurer in Grafton, is bringing that understanding and making sure that money goes to areas that are needed, like drug rehabilitation or the nursing home or things like that. So I'm asking for you guys to support as I run for the county treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And yes, we all talk about COVID, before COVID, prior to COVID, and after COVID. We'll ask questions afterwards. So let's move to the Register of Deeds. Terri, you're up.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I recognize a lot of faces here and some new. So thank you for coming to this meeting at 6 for all of us. So a little background about me is I am, can you all hear me fine? I see some.
Yes.
Okay.
No problem.
Is that I have been in healthcare for 30 years, 18 of those at Dartmouth. And then the rest I traveled. As soon as my kids, I was raised here in Grafton County, raised my children here. And as soon as they graduated high school, I decided to go get my feet deeper into my career. I was able to land some pretty amazing jobs. I flew med flight in the Caribbean, the entire Caribbean chain. You really don't learn to communicate when you're in the Caribbean islands to get your patient offloaded or onloaded. Then I ended up in Tucson, Arizona, where I had met my husband. And there I did I was a respiratory manager, safety officer for a medical facility, which includes all your fire drills, your active shooter drills, everything that involves safety of the facility, the entire facility, and the lab manager, which with those responsibilities came joint commission surveys. If anybody's ever been in healthcare, they're a big deal, and the facilities can get fined quite a bit if they fail them. We had very small infractions, which was like a date not on something, no charges, and we did not have to do any action plans on those. They were completed the day of. So that's just some of my background on the medical. For me, the reason I want to get into the Registry of Deeds, I moved back here with my husband to bring him here. You know, it's my home. I miss the mountains, I miss the trees, and my family. So we moved back here, decided to, I was going to submit a resume this summer, and looking at all the county positions, my family has been in public service my entire life. And so I've decided to take a look at all the county positions that were open, as well as others. And I chose the Register of Deeds office because of the flow of that business. The paperwork easy. Computers, I've done HIPAA in the hospital. So every computer system has to have a backup, and a backup to a backup. And so, I'm well versed in making sure documents stay safe and stay in the building and get shredded appropriately. That's something I want to make sure that the constituents of Grafton County, have that in place for themselves. There's a lot of paperwork that has personal information on it, that credit card numbers, checks, copies, they can go in the shredding bin. So that's why I jumped into the Register of Deeds. It's a position where I know I can manage people. I've managed anywhere from one staff member at a sales manager position. I did international and domestic sales with contracts in Hong Kong, to 100 people at the Children's Hospital Orange County. So anywhere in between there, I've managed people. It sounds like there's 2 or 3 staff members at the Register of Deeds office. I don't know, Kelley could know that. So 2 or 3 staff members. We'll make sure that works collegially. I have a lot of respect for that. The first thing I'm going to do when I get there is get trained by the staff members and get a meshed elbow to elbow. I'm going to work just as hard as they are. As I called around to other Register of Deeds to just ask what the position is about, because I didn't want to interrupt Kelley in her workflow at her place of employment. I decided that I'm not only will I get trained, but I am going to be working extremely hard and being one of the front people at the counter to make sure that business happens. I think that's it. I mean, I don't know what else to add to this other than I've been in healthcare for 30 years. I'm super excited about this position. I know Kelley has done a lot of great work. It can continue on as long as the database is backed up. The files are there. The computer system will continue to function, and the office employees will be able to come back together and we'll be able to stabilize the office out. Thank you.
Thank you, Terri. And Kelley, will turn to you, and I believe you're the only incumbent in our group, so you can end the sessions.
All right, as the incumbent, I'm a known entity, so I'd like to talk about the opposite flow. But first, many thanks to the Northern Grafton Democrats for this opportunity to speak directly to the voter. My name is Kelley Jean Monahan, and I identify as an American. I refuse to disrespect the struggles of my parents and their parents and their parents and their parents to win sympathy or votes. Their combined experiences, including my 64 years on the planet and my 14 years on the job training, which is paid for by the taxpayer of Grafton County, they've invested in me, make me a very valuable resource. I call it my PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. I use that PhD every day to help the people of this county, the property owners in Grafton County, and all who own interest and invest or are interested in investing in here. This important office, which I've faithfully served for 14 years, represents a cornerstone of our American economy, the American dream that is becoming more and more elusive for hardworking people. Property ownership means everything to me, and I'm very passionate about the role that I play for our citizens. During COVID, as essential workers, the silent engines of the registries across our country were busy at work, never missing a day of recording critical documents to the official public records. Over.
Kelley, you're on mute.
You went to mute, Kelley. Kelley, you're muted. We
I
can't
know, I
hear
see
you.
that. I
Okay, there
see
you
it.
are.
So let me back up. So you hear me on the $18 billion was injected in our economy during the pandemic, the first year at low interest rates to survive the global pandemic. In my 7 terms of service, we've never carried over daily work. If a document conforms, it goes to record that day. We've never had any adverse findings on any of my annual audits performed by county auditors or New Hampshire Department of Revenue auditors. My team and I collect on average $17 million annually in shared revenue. I have guided this office through the implementation of new recording and search programs, the introduction of computerized banking, e-recording, electronic signature legislation, and a pandemic as people from other areas of our country sought out a new life in rural New Hampshire. On multiple occasions, I've testified in the House to protect this office of local government from legislative privatization efforts. I have served as secretary, vice president, and president of the bipartisan New Hampshire Registered Deeds Association. I'm currently the second longest serving member. During the past 2 years, I've served on the legislative committee and acted as liaison to the New Hampshire Planning Office of Strategic Initiatives and the New Hampshire Land Surveyors Association. I've been a speaker at the New Hampshire Land Surveyors Association annual meeting for the past 2 years, reducing conflict by listening and informing. For the past 3 years, I have focused on 3 major restoration projects that have followed the exact directive for the ARPA, which was the reduction of public employee health and public health at the risk. First, we outsourced to U.S. Imaging our last scanning project, which digitized our gap years of 1890 to 1930. All images dating back to 1774 are now available on the web at our official website at nhdeeds.org. I have secured 2 full sets of microfilm of all records in the event of an internet failure or electric grid disruption. We can continue to search records and provide copies using our new microfilm reader and generator power. The last project was the restoration of all our historic plan books. These have now been flattened, restored, redigitized for a crisp image, and are encased in Mylar. When I first took office, I recognized that it would require a lioness to be the gatekeeper for these records, and I have not been wrong. I've held a mirror to people's behavior, people who have never been held accountable for their actions. For this, I have been met with lies, gaslighting, and hostile behavior. I do not believe that local government should be run as a family business. The people of Grafton County deserve better. I'm determined to finish the work that I started and have the fortitude to finish the job. My team and I love what we do every day. Our world is getting much more complicated, and people come to us for direction. We listen, we empathize, we empower, and we redirect. We do not practice law, but we can recognize when someone needs legal assistance. Our 3 phone lines are answered on the first ring by a live, friendly, and knowledgeable team member. We recently broke a record on revenue collection. My team and I processed over $2 million in shared revenue in the month of July, and August is on track to be 1.5 million. Grafton County is booming, and I lead the office that processes these critical documents and collect and redistribute the taxes and fees. Stability is required for these processes to continue seamlessly. The only question to the Democratic Party voter should be about competence, and I respectfully request the confidence of your vote on September the 10th for me to continue with my public service. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelley. Many of you know that I served in the House off and on for the last 10 years. And all I could say was that I was so proud to be part of Grafton County and represent and be part of the Grafton County. And I see us going that same route. So thank you for everyone that's had an opportunity to speak. We'll see what happens on September 10th, but I think we're in good hands. Thank you. Tim, you have a question for the sheriffs.
I have 2 questions for the sheriffs. Good evening, Timothy Egan, a resident of Sugar Hill, former member of the House of Representatives. It's quite publicly known I'm an advocate for legalized cannabis in our state as an economic development and a public safety issue. I'd like to know the sheriff's positions on legalizing recreational cannabis, knowing that the state is surrounded by states with legal cannabis.
Who wants to start the answer? Eric?
I can go first, sure.
You're
So-
unmuted.
I'm unmuted now, so perfect. So obviously, well, not obvious, but I've been in the profession for 30 years. And in that 30 years, the efforts in combating, I guess, drug use and cannabis specifically has changed drastically. When I started my career, we aggressively pursued those people that even possessed small quantities and used it for recreational use. Over the years, it has now decriminalized to the point where it's a violation level offense. I still have some significant concerns, although I can see the financial benefit to it. I still have some personal concerns. If legalized, okay, what is the prima facie amount in a blood system that all of a sudden someone is impaired? So if we come across someone driving, I know we can put someone through field sobriety tests, but from a law enforcement standpoint, I would love to have a test that how many parts per million is someone actually impaired. And so that's one concern. I do have some concerns about, is it going to be specifically used anywhere in public, or is it going to be used behind closed doors? Those are some concerns that I have. I know that I don't know if it's a majority of the population, but a significant portion of the population partakes in this. I personally am not for it, but that's my own personal belief. But I certainly understand if it does pass, that would be one less thing that I have to enforce. But certainly it's changed over the 30 years I've been involved in law enforcement. So does that answer your question, at least a short-term way?
Yes,
thank
thank
you.
you, Eric. Michael, you're unmuted, so you go next.
Thank you.
And then Jill.
I'll have to side with Eric on this one. I have some very personal concerns about it. I've been, talked about this before. Yeah, alcohol is legal and they give alcohol places for people to use alcohol. But obviously, if you look at the statistics on alcohol has been a terrible thing for this country. It's one of the leading causing of death in this country. As far as the use of cannabis, I'm sure it has some excellent medical benefits for some people. But again, we're talking in the form of either pills, gummies, other ways to ingest it besides smoking. I personally, I can't stand the smell of the stuff. I don't know if I'm allergic to it or anything like that, but the smell does not agree with me. But I think on a society level, I'm not sure I'd have to be sold on it. The Democrats, we listen to the science. The science is still out. They're saying that the brain doesn't develop fully till the age of 25. Okay, so what are the effects we know what the effects of alcohol are. What are the effects of marijuana on the brain before the age of 25? I'd still like to see some more statistics, and I'd like to see the change of how it's going to be used. But it definitely has to be regulated to the point where it is controlled and not meant for juveniles. Anything I can follow up on that?
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Jill, it's you.
So I'm the other end of this, and I believe that it should be legalized and that there should be some regulation, a bunch of regulation to it, in the looking at tobacco and alcohol on that end of it. Obviously, there's numerous states around us that have legalized it. We could look at their statistics on things such as like driving under the influence of marijuana, and just kind of build off of that to make more regulations or build off of their regulations. The other end of that is I believe that there is bigger things for law enforcement to be worrying about right now. Things like fentanyl and car fentanyl. They're such an issue, and I know that up in Littleton, we're finding that people are lacing marijuana with those substances, and it's very dangerous because no one knows what they're getting, and it's leading to some bigger issues, bigger than what we are already dealing with. So for legalizing it, but I definitely need some strong regulation.
Thank you, Jill. Tim, you had a second question for the candidates?
I
Sheriff
did. Thank you, Sue, and thank you for your answers. All well thought through and articulated. Appreciate it. The second one is, bail reform was a major piece of legislation, and other key law enforcement issues and funding for law enforcement are driven by the legislature. How would each of you as a candidate work with your county delegation, which is your liaison to the legislature?
Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. I believe the first step is identifying the problem, which we have. There's issues with bail reform and funding, like you've mentioned. Going to our state representatives would be the biggest thing. We need to work with them because they're the ones that are in the House and they're the ones that are bringing these issues forward and trying to navigate through them and change regulations and whatnot. So I believe that we really need to work with our state representatives, and I don't believe that that's something that law enforcement does often.
Michael, you want to come up next?
Sure. One of the things I do with the legislators is when we transport these people, the guys and girls that are in custody, we talk to them, and they'll tell us, their feelings on certain things. And as far as going to jail and getting out of jail, what they're going to do, how they're going to survive. But I would not have a problem with having those legislatures come with me and talk to these people, and they will tell you that they're not afraid to go to jail because they're just going to get let out again. And a lot of these people, especially the drug crisis, if they're hooked on to heroin or fentanyl, some of them have given up their family for this drug. Bail, I think that keeping them in jail is, besides being a public safety issue and keeping the public safe, this is also, if letting them go does not benefit them. I think it gives them a chance to get clean, to get their head on straight, to think about their next step in life. And I think that helps them. But when we let them out, and especially they're repeat offenders, they get out on PR bail or just no bail, they repeat offend, they come back again, they're let go, they repeat offend. By the time they get before court at a trial, they have a slew of charges before them. That does not do them, the defendant, any service at all. If we could keep them off the streets and clean and give them a chance to get a hold of themselves. And in the past, you've talked to some of these people, and that has helped. I don't know, in my career, how many times that they've said to me, getting arrested was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because it did give them that chance to reflect, to get clean, to whether it be drugs or alcohol. But if they deserve to be held, I mean, obviously back earlier in my and Eric's career, people were held much easier than they are now. And that's where it happened more, where people were getting themselves straight, giving them a couple days to think about themselves. And now they just get turned around and released right away. So yeah, I would bring the legislature, have them talk to these people one-on-one. And I think they would be, the information that they would gather would be so fantastic for them to help them make that decision in the legislature.
Eric, you want to throw your information in?
I'll throw my 2 cents in. Love to. So I think the question, and correct me if I'm wrong, was how we work with the county delegation. And it has to be a team approach. It can't just be my voice as sheriff going to the county delegation. I have to team up with local agencies. I have to work with the police chiefs and the communities to say this is a problem. I have to work with the county attorney's office to be a group voice. It can't just be one person going to the delegation and saying this is a problem. It has to show that it's across the system. So as a group, we're going to bring multiple agencies to the table, and we're going to speak as a unit, as a profession, to say that this is a problem and we need a corrective action and address it appropriately. So brief answer.
Thank you, Eric. We're going to end at 7 o'clock. So is there someone besides Tim that would like to ask a question?
Nobody put any in, so I was expecting more, so.
Yeah,
didn't mean to
I
hog.
know. I don't see any hands.
Can I ask my treasurer
Okay,
question?
Tim, you can ask your
So for the-
treasurer questions.
So for the treasurers, right, the recent New Hampshire PDIP legislation, how will it impact county tax revenue? Because it's going to impact town tax revenue. How will you approach that in budget planning?
Mike,
You want
you
me to
look
go
like you're
first?
ready to answer. Yes.
Should I go first?
Sure.
Well, first of all, the budget is put together, as you know, Tim, by the staff through the executive director onto the commissioners and then onto the legislators. We really, as treasurers, don't play a role in forming the budget other than our own budget specifically. Obviously, anything that impacts the budget, as far as the amount of monies that come in, we roughly take in, I think in the last budget, about $27 million from the towns. Somebody said, if it affects you by a couple of percent, all of a sudden that's $500,000, which can make a big difference to if you have to go across the board or if you have to take on someone like the nursing home, which is the largest budget in our district, so in our county. So I would say, I'm sure that we will be looking at it closely, but from a treasurer's standpoint, we don't really play the role of forming the budget as I did when I was a county commissioner.
Corinne,
Yeah,
you have anything
so
to add?
like Mike said, it's probably not going to have a major impact on us. If I'm remembering correctly, that was going to have a big impact on the state treasurer. And obviously, when things come down the line for towns and counties and all of that, we will certainly have to see what we do and how we adjust. But like Mike was saying, our budget for the 2025 year is, I believe, like $56 million. And we had to make some hard choices about, whether we wanted to keep taxes low for Grafton County residents, or if we wanted to keep our undesignated fund balance high. And so, we kind of met in the middle somewhere. And so those are decisions that are up to the delegation and to the commissioners mostly. And my job as treasurer is going to be to make sure that we are appropriately looking at how we can get the best interest rates and invest our money to the best of our ability from there. So.
Thank you, Corinne. Jason?
Unfortunately, going third, I don't have a whole lot different to add. Both Mike and Corinne covered it well. That as a treasurer, we don't set a budget. We just make sure our money is in safekeeping. And as Mike alluded to earlier, most of our funds are in senior accounts that provide the FDIC backing spread across many institutions. So not a whole lot for us to worry about in the minutia on the PDIP legislation.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And it is 7 o'clock. We were hoping to end at 7 o'clock. I know that many of time about a half an hour later, I think of a question I should have asked, and it just doesn't come up right now. So if you have a question, all of these people are candidates. Their information is out there. If you have an opportunity, you want to ask somebody, send them an email, make sure that you get an appropriate answer. If you are having trouble to getting emails, send it to me. If any of the candidates don't want me to give out their email, just let me know. But other than that, I will be glad to send out the emails. We also have this recorded, and Ann Garland, I hope you're going to stay on this call and make sure I know what to do with the recording. One thing to record, it's another thing to know what to do with the recording. And Ann, I'm counting on you. This was very helpful. It was, it's an opportunity to get to meet people across the across the county. And this is especially important for all of us. This is an incredibly difficult election. And I just want to say that I hope you all listen to Michelle Obama. And for Michelle Obama, I'm going to say to everyone on this call, do something. we are incredibly lucky in New Hampshire is that we have places to do something. I don't care whether it is making phone calls, stuffing envelopes, canvassing. There are lots of things we can do, talking to people from other states. They're not sure what they're doing. We know what we're doing. We're ready to do it, and we are going to win. When you fight, you win. We're going to fight on this one. So thank you, everyone, for showing up, and thank you, everyone, for supporting Northern Grafton County Dems and the whole county of Grafton.